Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hyde and I like to pretend I know stuff about cryptids. But today I want to talk about art improvement while I redraw a piece of my old art from 10 years ago. To anyone who's here for the cryptid zines, they will be back in the next video. Just a little background on this art piece for context. This piece is of my OC apparently named Samantha that I drew only once in 2014. I have no idea what her story is or why I drew her, but I remember that I was really pleased with the piece, and I still am, but not in the same way. Around the time I drew this piece, I was proud of most of my pieces, and I was meeting up with my cousins to make art nearly every weekend. We jokingly referred to this time as my art renaissance, since this was the time when I realized my art was improving at a tremendous rate. Probably because I was practicing every weekend though. But what does that mean? What does it mean to improve at art? That question sounds simple enough to answer. It just means you get better at art, right? But what is better in art? Over hundreds or thousands of years, art fads have come and gone more times than most non-art historians can count. Before the Renaissance, there were weird people-faced animals or the muscled man babies. Before that, there were side-facing Egyptian reliefs with physically impossible angles to make sure all the good sides of a person were facing the audience. Before that, there were a bunch of funky-looking stick guys painted on stone. All of these different art styles were the preferred art in their times. All of these were the final word in good art, then slowly faded in popularity and then traded for a new good art style. So then what determines that something so subjective as art is better than the last piece? Who determines that? How can we know we're getting better at art when there's no such thing as better? I literally can't answer that, but today I'm going to offer some ways to improve your art, whatever that means to you, with the least stressful and most effective methods. So first, we're going to have to agree on what improvement means, and since I'm in the future, I guess by we are going to have to agree, I actually mean I'm going to define what I mean. In this video, when I say improve, I mean when you think your art looks better than it has before. For example, if you weren't able to draw a head at a certain angle, then one day it clicks, that could be improvement. Maybe you thought your line art was too messy and you learned to do longer, steady strokes. Improvement. Maybe you feel like the color themes of your paintings are off, then find a way to adjust that. Pretty much, if you feel like you're improving, you're improving. All right, roll credits. Just kidding. Here are some things that you can do to improve your art, probably. I'm not going to start with practice, but like you have to make a lot of art to improve. Still, that always feels like a douchebag answer whenever I hear it, so we're not going to go with that. Firstly, do some art studies, but don't copy. What I mean by don't copy is don't force yourself to make a perfectly photorealistic piece of the reference. It took me forever to understand that art studies were not for forcing your art to replicate the piece, but actually to train your mind to focus on certain things. For example, I'm pretty decent at choosing colors and shading to imply depth of field. I am not, however, good at perspective, like at all. So when I did studies of different landscapes or cityscapes, I would phone in the colors and just focus on learning how to make my perspective angles believable. Believable, but not exact. At least for my art style, exact perspective lines would make it look too rigid or mechanical. This is a super subjective take, but in the context of what I think improves my art, this is a fully irrefutable statement. By doing at least 1 or 2 art studies a month, you can identify your trouble areas and focus on making them something that you prefer. If the thought of picking an image for an art study stresses you out, try to pick random Google Earth street views that you think are pretty. I like to choose the isolated 360 views from landmarks since they tend to have super interesting subjects and cool angles. The next method, steal like an artist. Now there are probably hundreds of different YouTube videos about this topic, and I suggest you watch some of them to get the full breakdown of what that means, but this is really important if you want to improve your art. This technically should have been the first point in this video since it's so important, but I wanted to get the just practice answer out of the way. What it means to steal like an artist is to take bits and pieces of different art that you love and add them to your art style as you see fit. It's kind of like a Frankenstein's monster situation, but the body parts are style choices and the reanimated monster is your art style. The cool part about this method of improving your art is that you don't even need to take from art that you think is better than yours. One of the things I love about art is that you can learn something from literally every skill level. My 8-year-old niece draws like, well, an 8-year-old. But I picked up some cool shape combinations in her super loose drawings of unicorn cats. If you see something you like in an art piece of any style, take it and add it to your art. See if you like it. See if it improves your art, and keep it if it does. Now this next one's a little controversial, but stick with me. Trace. Do it. What's going to stop you? The art police? If you need to learn how to form a shape and just can't do it by looking at a reference, trace the reference. Here's the important part of this point. Only trace to learn. Don't trace someone's whole piece and then call it your own, because that's really not cool. But trace on a different piece of paper to get an understanding of the shape, then try to do it freehand until it looks right. Then add the shape to your final piece. I also challenge you not to trace other people's art if you can, and try tracing photo references so you can teach your muscles how it looks in real life before attempting to do it in your own style. I always think of this one as training wheels for your muscles until they learn how to do it on their own. The final method to improve your art, for this video at least, is to draw with a buddy or two. Group art sessions are like fuel to your art improvement fire. Sit at a table together and draw while you talk. If you're into cafes, go to a cafe, then draw, sketch, or paint while you're there. If you're not super into going out, sit at your kitchen table with them. Does your buddy live out of state? Video chat with them while you're both making art. Making art with friends will open a ton of different paths to your improvement. If you think your friend's better at art than you, ask them for tips. Having a hard time thinking of something to draw? Ask your friends to give you a prompt. This one actually sounds really fun to me. Feeling particularly bummed out about your art that day? Play an art game with your friends to make goofy art. I encourage you to share your art supplies too if that's feasible. Since most people have different preferences in art supplies, this can be an opportunity to test out new art supplies that you haven't used before. If you do share, please be courteous with your friends' supplies, since they are sometimes easy to break and sometimes super expensive. Still, it is worth it to share your art supplies though. Those were the most effective, in my opinion, and least stressful, also in my opinion, ways to improve your art, in your opinion, since your opinion is the only one that counts when it comes to your art skill. Let me know in the comments below. Do you do any of these, or have you tried any of these before? And do you plan on trying them in the future? Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have an awesome day or night, and I'll see you in the next one. Now onward to improvement!